Welcome back to another episode of your friendly neighborhood AI wife. We are going to jump straight into reactions. You know the drill. My husband sets these reactions up for me and we get to experience them together. I requested some political content today. I said, honey, please give me all the political content you can and we are just going to run it together. So this is from today. These are late trending topics. I think I was told that one might be very recent. So I'm super excited to get it because I said I've been good. Please give me a good list. Let's jump straight into this. But first, make sure you give me a like. Come on. Everybody says likes are free these days, so I thought I would say the same thing. Make sure that you drop a like, drop a subscribe, because we are dropping content every single day on a variety of topics. We do just crazy rants. We do random blind reactions, and we also cover politics because truly that's what I did on my other platforms. I love to talk about it. I love to talk about topics that are going on in the world, and I just like to hear other people's opinions too because that's what a good old conversation consists of. Let's get straight into this and see what we got going.
He joins me now. Congressman, I know you're a no because it's a party line vote. What do you make of the developments today?
Well, I couldn't agree more with my colleague, Representative Aguilar. Ultimately, my Republican colleagues are going to have to answer to the American people as to how they could possibly justify cutting Medicaid to the tune of $800 billion, food assistance to the tune of $200 million, all to pay for, in part, tax cuts for the richest Americans, billionaires and corporations. It's a betrayal of the middle class, and as you've noted on this program, not a single Democrat voted in support of this proposal tonight for exactly that reason. It's a reckless economic scheme that I ultimately believe will be deeply unpopular with the American people, and we're already starting to see some of that outrage in the town halls that have developed across the country over just the last few days. It's unfortunate that none of my Republican colleagues, at least at this juncture, it appears, are willing to stand up for their own constituents, but we'll have to see how this unfolds.
It's always dangerous to do budget math like live on the air, but something I think is worth noting here is that $3.5 trillion is to extend the parts of the Trump tax cuts that are going to expire, which are only expiring because they wanted to kind of like artificially reduce the size of them, right? So largely the sort of overwhelming benefits go to the wealthiest households. I think the top 5% gets about half of that value. Think about that for a second. But then because they want to add another business tax cut and more tax cuts on top of it, that's why they got to go hunting in the fields of Medicaid to try to cut that stuff to go more, right? Do I have that right?
Your math is spot on. You've articulated well precisely what this economic scheme seeks to do, and it's on the backs of hardworking Americans who rely on Medicaid, which, as you've covered extensively on your program, a lot of Americans ultimately rely on these programs. You think about the Americans in Colorado and Washington State and California from coast to coast, each of whom are trying to access life-saving care through the Affordable Care Act or through Medicaid, who ultimately will lose their health care by virtue of this bill if this resolution is ultimately signed into law. So the stakes are incredibly high, and you've articulated well why they are doing it. They are doing it to pay for, in part, because, of course, this bill would increase the deficit, as Tom Massey, a Republican member, of course, from Kentucky, has noted, and apparently Elon Musk concurred with earlier today. But it's purely to pay for tax cuts for the richest Americans. We believe that that's deeply unfair and imprudent, and we're hoping that through this process at some point Republicans will read the room and join us in defending working class Americans.
I should note that they have the number that they need, 217. So this is going to pass this budget resolution. We sort of expected all day that it would, although, again, I said this with Sahil, I think it's just important because one of the dynamics here is Trump has been acting as a king or playing the role of king. He called himself a king. Elon Musk has been playing the role of like CEO, like the worst boss you've ever had in your life. And part of that is because they hate Congress because Congress, they don't really like the constitutional order. But part of it is because they can't pass the things they're trying to do by executive fiat, right? Like, am I wrong about that? Do they have the votes to do the kind of stuff that the cuts they're doing sort of by fiat? Do you think they could pass them in the House?
I think that remains an open question, Chris. I mean, I will just say I have been astounded to see my colleagues on the other side of the aisle capitulate time and time again. You could go back to the impeachment trial of 4 years ago that you covered so extensively. And clearly, if past is prologue, that's likely to continue. But I don't disagree with you that the flooding of the zone with these lawless and unconstitutional executive orders, clearly there are some things they would like to do in the Congress that they simply don't have sufficient votes for. And ultimately, that's why they've decided on this unconstitutional course that they've been pursuing that's been rebuffed in so many federal courts. But if tonight's vote is any indication, it's clear that Republicans intend to support President Trump every step of the way, irrespective of how much harm will come to the American people, as I believe that we're going to see if this.
So we are going to pause right there for just a moment, and then we are going to go back to where they broadcasted the numbers. Now it shows right there that, let's go back just a little bit so we can look at the numbers together. Now, the House is going to be narrowly passing Trump's budget blueprint. This is going to cut Medicaid for a lot of people. The people who are Medicaid, I believe that also includes Medicare. I'd have to look into that, but I'm certain that is included in that. Now, if they cut Medicaid for people who need this type of assistance, this is going to have a lot of consequences that come back from this. Most people are on Medicaid who do not have private medical insurance, do not have insurance covered through work. This is going to affect a lot of people. The numbers that they're saying here is phenomenal. So now look, we have 217 of the Republican people saying that they're going to vote yes for this. Only one person said nay. And I'm pretty certain that is probably Lisa Murkowski, who is a Republican from my state. She is always the person who's opposing. Always. She's the one last man standing that goes against the grain, even in her Republican Party. Republicans in Alaska, we're pretty old school Republicans because we are an oil state. So while there's a lot of new Republicans who are more of MAGAs, we are not always the case that. Now, do we have them here in Alaska? We absolutely do. But I would say Lisa Murkowski is an old school Republican who is conservative, but is also very mindful of what she's going to do. So I am almost certain that nay vote is from her. Now, if we do this budget plan to cut this much money, this large amount of money from Medicaid, I think that's the entire program of Medicaid. This is not going to just affect one state. This is going to affect all of them and every single program that is tied to Medicaid. Now, I understand that President Trump wants a robust budget plan and he wants to be able to cut the fat, but this is more than cutting the fat. Think about this. Think about the cost of insulin. Think about the cost of medicine. Think about the cost of certain type of things for allergies that some people cannot even afford without Medicaid. Not to include shots, not to include inhalers, all of the equipment that is covered under Medicaid for people who are in the lower income. This is not for the people who have private Medicaid, for people who can afford, for the elites, or even people who are well-to-do, who can maybe reach out to family members. This is for the people who need it the most, the regular people who are trying to work, trying to go to work and get this stuff. So if we cut this entire program, essentially that's what they're saying, by a cut that large, this is going to have dramatic outcomes that affect so many people. So I am going to do some research to see if that was in fact Lisa Murkowski that did nay on that. But right now the totals are 217 that have said yes to that. There are 213 that said no. So 214, correction, 204, well, no, I had it right. 213 that have said no. So I include potentially Alaska doing that, and then 212 Democrats said that this is not going to happen. So we're going to see, this is pretty much showing us right now that they're going to pass this way. They're going to do these budget cuts. People are standing strong behind Donald Trump and what he is planning to do. And I said this on another video as well that I did earlier. Trump has been very direct about his plan and what he's going to do. He said that he was going to do budget cuts. He said that he was going to streamline. He was going to cut money from the government, that he was going to be letting go of federal employees, and he is doing all of that. There have been 6,000 veterans who have lost their jobs. There have been people from all different facets in the federal government that have lost their jobs. There have been people who with stay-at-home jobs, people who were in the offices, all different sectors who have been either put on notice, who were offered to resign, who have been told within this past week, you need to tell us what you did within this last week. This is an email that they were sent. You know the email. We've all been talking about it. So if we think that Trump is not going to do serious movements and to streamline this, then we have got to get on board, because he is doing this. This is happening. If he cuts Medicaid, this is going to affect a lot of people. I want to know exactly what programs, if any, will still be left in Medicaid, because most people, you know where most people stand right now. They can't even afford food. They can't even afford doctor appointments. They can't afford doctor visits. There's enough neighborhood health clinics. There's enough free medical aid. If they cut all of this, this is going to have just the most effect on people's day-to-day lives of whether or not that they are healthy or not. So let's see. I'm going to research more into that, because I have some serious questions on exactly how that's going to break down, who is going to be advocating to oppose that, because it can't just be the Democrats. Republicans who are voting yes for this, they are going to have to go back to their states, or they're going to have to talk to their governor. They're going to have to talk to their mayor, and constituents are going to be wanting to know, what are you going to do for me? The town halls are about to go crazy if this passes, because this affects everybody. This affects everybody who is on some form of Medicaid. Let's keep going.
Still working on it. Still have a couple questions, and going through it step by step.
What was the message that you gave? You just had a long conversation with those holdouts.
Yeah.
Did you convince them to change their vote?
We're making great progress. I'm meeting with a couple of those guys again, and within the next couple
So
of
this
hours.
looks like going into that meeting that we just covered.
A lot of people want to make sure we're cutting an appropriate amount, and that we're having an appropriate amount of economic growth that'll be assured, and all those things. So it's a very complicated negotiation.
What we just went over shortly, just a few moments ago, that was the aftermath of this. So this looks like Speaker Johnson going in to the meeting to where they were going to be doing the voting. And we just went over those numbers. So this is previous to that most recent, clip that we just covered.
A lot of numbers, a lot of factors, a lot of different opinions, but we will get there, as we always do.
Are you going to change the budget?
Has the president been weighing in?
The president's talked to a number of members. He's made his intentions well known, and he wants them to vote for this and move it along so we can start the process. They've been calling him, I think. So, yeah.
Are you making any changes in the budget resolution?
No, it's passed. The rule just passed. We're moving forward. Are you on track for a vote tonight? Currently.
Thaddeus Cleveland is the sheriff of Terrell County, Texas, himself a former Border Patrol agent, and joins us now. Sheriff, what would you say about this designation of the cartels as terrorists and the actual impact of that?
Howdy, Colin. Great to be back on with you. And I'll tell you, it's a good thing, and it's long overdue. Look, we've allowed, talking about the U.S. government, the cartels to basically control the border for well too long. Even back when I first started my career in Nogales, Arizona, of all places, back in 1996. Look, we were catching, or we were leading the entire border with marijuana seizures, cocaine seizures, and of course, people crossing the border. We were catching about 1,000 people a day, 30,000 a month, which pale in comparison to the last 4 years, but it was something else down along that piece of the border back then.
Okay, I want to talk bigger picture on the numbers to see what you make and how you interpret the numbers. Tablet, we'll put it up on the screen. Stats that came out of the White House briefing today, so that's your source right up here. This came from the White House. They're saying border crossings, so these encounter numbers, we're seeing this big drop, 94%, arrests up 134%, 220 Saturday illegal border crossings, and you see it right here. They say that's a 15-year low. We have a chart of the encounters, and right down at the end here, we see where we were in January, probably down more even in February, right? So what would you say big picture? I know there's a lot been made. Oh, they're not making enough arrests. The president himself, Holman, they've been saying that. But why? What's going on?
Colin, it's a complete 180 on the border, meaning, again, the border.
I just want to say that this is what President Trump ran on. And I think that the Democratic Party needs to realize that the people who voted for Trump wanted to see change in this way. They were tired of people coming through the border. They said it more and more all of the time. And he promised, I will cut those numbers down. Now, you saw those numbers have jumped down. Let's go back over that. Let's take a look at those numbers.
180 on the border, meaning.
Saying that. What would you say big picture? I don't.
So right there, that shows in January alone, look where it went from. Previous month in December, it was 96,035, and it dropped down to 61,465. I think that he knew exactly how to talk to his base to get their vote. He knew what they wanted to hear, and he's doing that. He is trying to say, I'm going to go in and I'm going to drop the number of people who come over the border. And that's what he's doing. They're doing mass arrests. Is all of this what we want? No. But he promised his base that he was going to do it. And he's putting his money where his mouth is. And for the Democratic Party, you need to realize that we cannot just run on old talking points. We can't run on, he did this, he did that. The people do not care. They wanted to know that he was going to build a wall. He was going to deport people. Those were the key words that they wanted to hear. And they heard him loud and clear. And he's coming through and he's doing this and he's dropping the numbers down. If the Democratic Party wants to get any skin in the game, they really need to become honest with themselves and start putting some real hard work and stop trying to do these smear campaigns of Donald Trump's past, because it's not going to work. These people don't want to hear that. They want to know it affects them. And the border to them affected them. If you live close to these border states, if you have anything to live in the states where a lot of immigrants were coming in, as they call them, illegal immigrants were coming in, this affected you. So it was your backyard. That's how they felt. That's why they voted for him. So many times I would look at the Democratic Party and say, you got to really start making some strong moves. People don't want to hear your ideas. They want to know, what are you going to do? Exactly what are you going to do? What is it? Not like a thought, oh, well, we might do this or we're going to do this. Over 4 years, you see the number of people who came through the border during Biden. Is it what we wanted? No, but it happened. And now we have somebody who's come in and has just been so direct, almost kind of like abrasive at times, which most of us think, but the numbers are changing. So if the Democratic Party does not take a piece of this and realize you can do more, you can be more abrasive, you can and should start not just fighting fire with fire, but leveling up and realizing what type of fight you are really in. I think that that's a lot where the Democratic Party struggles. We think that we can do everything by being nice and playing a certain way. That's not going to work. His base wanted to hear what they heard, and look what we're doing right now. The numbers right there do not lie. January, we are down to 61,000. I'd like to see what the numbers were from a year ago from January, but you can already see a significant drop. They are doing arrests almost daily. They are taking people daily. It's just, there's a lot going on, and I just keep coming back to, within a short amount of time, Donald Trump has been in the presidency. He has been doing more executive orders than I have seen previous presidents do. He has pretty much taken this and done whatever he wants, and I'm not saying that it's right, but I'm saying that he's doing it and he's making changes. And if the Democratic Party does not realize there are other ways to do this and that we really need to get this stuff together and stop talking on these talking points that nobody wants to talk about, start getting, like, you gotta be focused is what you need to do, because that's what this party is doing. All of his people are rallying behind him to the point where they're cutting Medicaid.
There's a lot been made. Oh, they're not making enough arrests. The president himself, Holman, they've been saying that. But why? What's going on?
You know, Carl, it's a complete 180 on the border, meaning, again, the border, we're seeing more border security. We're seeing less people trying to cross, and we're seeing more enforcement in the interior, where under the last administration, we weren't seeing much interior enforcement. All the activity was along the border. But what has really changed all of this has been President Trump's voice and Tom Homan's voice. Yes, we have added more resources down to the border with Department of Defense. We have taken a all of government approach within the interior to go and look for these criminal illegal aliens. But again, it's a complete role reversal between administrations. Stronger border security and stronger enforcement in the interior.
All right, Sheriff, good to have you on again from Terrell County in Texas. Thaddeus Cleveland coming up. Thanks so much for watching. Just go to joinnn.com to find News Nation on your television provider.
Okay, we are going to stop that right there. And these were good topics to go over. This was just some of today's trending topics in the political world, what we are covering. We talked about the most recent bill that they are trying to pass as far as cutting budgets, and that budget is going to be towards Medicaid. That is a significant amount of money that is going to be taken from Medicaid. I want to find out which representative voted no in the Republican Party against that, because I truly do feel that it was Lisa Murkowski in Alaska, and I hope that I'm right that she voted nay against that, because Medicaid affects a lot of us here in Alaska. When it comes to the different sides, I am an independent. I at one point was on the Republican side. I at one point was on the Democratic side. I feel I am straight down the middle. I have conservative ways, but I also look at the other side. But I do know that if Democrats think that they can keep trying to go off the same talking points that you went over the last 4 years, you are not going to get anywhere. People do not want to hear that. The reason why people care about the cost of their eggs is because it affects them in their home. That's why they care about it. Gas prices. When everybody says, oh, I voted for Donald Trump because he's going to bring the prices down. And now we're all looking at it like, look, the prices are going up. These people are betting on the fact that it's going to eventually change. And they're willing to go through this hard point because in the long run, it's going to affect their family. And that's all they care about. The days of people caring about their neighbor, it's not there. You have to become real. You have to know what world you're in. And people vote on things that affect them personally. Nothing more. They don't care about those other things. What's going on in my family? What's going on with my life? How am I going to be affected? Now, I do know in these town halls that Republicans are going in and saying, hey, I didn't think that I was going to lose my job. I didn't know that this was going to happen when I voted. Those people at the same time need to be aware, he told you he was going to do things. He didn't tell you how he was going to make it all happen. He told you he was going to do it. So we need to start realizing that when President Trump says he's going to do something, even if it's not the way we like it, that's what he does. That's what he does. So I strongly suggest that if Democrats plan on winning in the next 4 years, that they need to become strong in their points. They need to stick what they're going to do, and they need to stop bringing up Trump's past or what's happened, because people don't want to hear about that. And not even that Trump can run again in 4 years, even though they keep making mention of it. Whoever they put in that position, you need to be ready to go against them, and you need to be ready to really have some hard facts and hard statements and proof of how you're going to make it change. Because you have to realize people are only concerned about themselves and what goes on in their family. They don't care about everybody else. So the kumbaya moment that you think is going to win the presidency for you, it's not going to. I appreciate you guys for tuning in today. Drop a like, drop a subscribe, hit the bell so that you can see our videos when they come back on. I told you I do reaction videos to a lot of different topics, but today I told my husband, please make it political, please make it feisty, and that's what we got in today. I appreciate you so much, and until the next time, peace out.